blown engines, electrical problems, and bad transmissions. The mode of failures is pretty extensive in modern day vehicles. Today we're going to share a list of the 10 worst vehicles that have the biggest amount of problems in 2025 that you want to avoid like the plague. Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. First one on our loser list goes to Mercedes-Benz, like this. This is a small GLA, CLA. They're entry-level vehicles. You get the C-Class, E-Class, and as you go up the ranks, they seem to get a little better, but the durability just isn't quite there. And the initial failure mode that a lot of people see is a lot of times positive crankcase ventilation issues, electrics, sunroofs, leaks, general issues related to technology. Now the 4MATIC, the all-wheel drive system's pretty robust. I have heard a lot of these engines rattle around. It's almost sound like a diesel. The gearboxes tend to be a little bit clunky, although they do work. And these ones are the double clutch with the GLA and the CLA, and you have to step up to the C-Class, E-Class to get the torque converter auto, which are coincidentally quite reliable, but you do get squeaky front differential noises, you get all kinds of electronic tech related problems, and a whole host of issues related to all of the features and sensors if you have a battery voltage that's too low, again leading itself to lots of visits to the dealer related specifically to a lot of the technology. And Mercedes-Benz at 210 failures per 100 vehicles puts it right smack dab in the bottom and the start of the loser list. Here's the next brand that doesn't do all that well for durability or reliability. Here we have the Chrysler 300, that's gone away. Here we have essentially the only vehicle left in the Chrysler stable, of course, is the full-size minivan. And the minivans aren't that great. A lot of people use them. They're fleet vehicles. You see them all over, but lots of rentals. Not a lot of people buy these. You'd rather buy the Hondas, the Toyotas, the Odysseys, and the Siennas are much more durable. Palisades even are much better than these, but people do somehow, for some reason, buy them. But 213 out of 100 vehicles you're finding with issues. And a lot of it has to do with the electrics, the TIPMs in the older models, and some of the electric systems have been a problem. Of course, wheels and brakes, suspension parts are fragile. They get clunky, they get noisy, and they just generally don't hold up all that well. Fit and finish isn't that amazing, and the technology is very old school and certainly a little dated. There's a reason why there's only one vehicle left in the brand, and it's surprising it's still holding on. The next vehicle on the list is Mini. Coolant, hoses, gaskets, oil leaks, variable valve timing, vanos systems, gearbox problems. There have been troubles. Now Mini's gotten a lot better, and they're creating a lot more interesting cars these days, and the Mini Cooper is vastly better. Since around 2014, 2015, they've started to change up the engine. Durability has improved drastically, but it's still an expensive brand to look after. Durability challenges is nothing new. As a result, 218 failures or issues per 100 vehicles. If you like driving that car, you're gonna pay. It's like they say, you gotta pay to play, but ultimately there will be problems, and unfortunately it ranks quite lowly for durability issues. The BMW Mini, great fun, exciting little drive, and the newer the ones you get, the better, but they definitely come with their share of challenges. The next one on our hit list at 218 out of 100 vehicles failing is Ram. Now Ram, they've got some of the best diesel engines. Of course, can't go wrong with the Cummins like you're seeing right here in the 2500 and 3500 HD truck, but a lot of their half-ton trucks have had problems. Their Hemi Tick, they've had a lot of problems even with their Dodge Durangos, but specifically the Ram trucks have had more than their share. At 218 problems out of 100, it means that you're highly probable to find issues and have to sort them out at the dealership. Sadly, once a warranty's gone, you're probably going to welcome a lot of failures, whether it's issues like these door panels or access in, or some of the technology related to that, or even some of the electrics here with the old TIPM, and a lot of the Stellantis products we know like Ram and Chrysler and Jeep have all had their problems with electrics. Transmissions have been better in recent generations with the ZF automatic, but a lot of the engines have been problematic, and most importantly, even more so the electrics. And the electrics are going to keep bringing you in for updates, firmware changes, quality control issues. Sadly, Ram is going to be on the list of some of the least reliable initial quality results by JD Power. Mitsubishi, another one. Of course, their CVT transmissions aren't that amazing or inspiring. The vehicles haven't done all that well in the North American market. The Mitsubishi Mirage is a vehicle that most people just don't want to be caught seen in because it's a bit of a clown car. But at the end of the day, with 222 issues per 100 vehicles, the reliability isn't even that great either. So at least if you're going to drive something that's embarrassing and obnoxious to look at, it's going to be somewhat reliable, but even these are marginal in terms of reliability, and Mitsubishi are not necessarily the most reliable car coming out of Japan. I mean, even look at the fit and finish here, look at the fit and finish here, look at all these parts. It's just not all that well put together, and certainly the quality lacks the luster. So does the design. The next one in line, I actually can't believe that they made the list of some of the worst, least reliable, and initial lowest quality. Mazda's been making a lot of great vehicles these days, but unfortunately there have been some problems, specifically particularly with this particular model. CX-70, CX-90, they're plug-in hybrids, hybrid electric vehicles. This one here you see has the new inline six, but it's not so much the gas engine that's been the problem. The big issue with these is some of the technology, not so much the engine. The engine and transmission are relatively bulletproof. This full-size inline six-cylinder engine, 3.3 liter, has been an absolute rock steady unit. Even some of their smaller engines, the 2.5 liter and the 2.5 liter turbo four-cylinder engine, as well as a 6-speed auto and a 6-speed manual gearboxes, are very, very reliable. A good friend of mine actually bought himself a CX-50, and he found himself all of a sudden the emergency braking system absolutely dropping the hammer and stopping on a dime while he's driving doing 70 miles an hour down the highway. Talk about a fearful, absolutely catastrophic failure waiting to happen. When the technology takes over and sends the computer the message that something's wrong, but nothing's actually wrong, that's a scary time. As well as this particular model here has had some issues as well with some restarts on the hybrids, and of course some of that has needed some reprogramming. Outside of that, a lot of these issues are pretty minor. The engines are good, the transmissions are generally pretty robust. The only issues that I see is the 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine that is a naturally aspirated. It does have cylinder deactivation. Not a lot of people are in love with that. But because of these few issues, it's unfortunately slid down to the lower ranks, and 225 problems per 100 vehicles is what you would expect from Mazda these days. Once they get past some of those technology issues, you're guaranteed to see this slide right back to the top. There's the next one on the list. Unfortunately, we know that the VW brand has struggled with some durability problems. Of course, with the ID4, what we're looking at here is not that. It's the Taos, which is probably one of the least reliable vehicles in their lineup. Initially, it had a dual clutch gearbox. They sort of gave up because customers didn't like the jerkiness and the way it responded. They moved up back into a standard, more garden variety transmission. But even with some of the initial responses to this vehicle when it first came out, with fuel leaks, there was fuel system problems, technology issues with a lot of these vehicles. They're also not all that innovative, and you're starting to see vehicles that are only a couple years old that are starting to rust. They don't seem to have a very good rust resistance. Overall, the technology of a lot of these Volkswagens like the Taos, even though you get 4Motion, you get the all-wheel drive, and they're competitively priced. They even look sharp. Of course, they're the baby brother to Audi, but they just don't necessarily have the durability and the staying power, and as a result, 225 failures out of 100 vehicles means that you're going to be having your hands full taking this vehicle into the dealership for services and repairs and firmware updates and software changes and all kinds of problems that you really didn't bargain for. Volkswagen, one of the worst vehicles based on J.D. Power's initial quality surveys. The next one should be of no shocker to you, and we're talking about Infiniti. They've had their select choice of problems, of course, a few engine-related issues, particularly in some of their newer VC engines, but what we're dealing with is this is the larger QX models of SUVs. Now, there's been a small number of reported engine issues, but largely we're talking about all kinds of technology, sensors all over, problematics with that, of course, headlights, infotainment system issues, tire pressure monitoring systems, of course, access getting into these vehicles. They've also had problems with the backup camera with these vehicles too. Getting into the back or seeing out of the back has been a problem with some of these Infinitis, and a whole host of technology has been nothing short of problematic. I mean, they do have their share of all kinds of Pep Boys type of design themes on there like that, and clearly it feels like with only a couple of models left for 2025 that Infiniti is literally almost on its way out the door. With the big brother luxury version of Nissan, we know Nissan's been in some serious dire straits for sales and certainly is barely hanging on by a thread, and Infiniti, there isn't enough cash flow to innovate and make these products even better. Sadly, with 242 failures per 100 vehicles, Infiniti is damn close to the top of some of the worst vehicles based on J.D. Power's initial quality results. One of the worst is Volvo. This is another one that's on the list with 258 problems per 100 vehicles. Now, this is an older generation, but the newer cars of Volvo, a lot of them have way too much technology. 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder with a supercharger and a turbo and a hybrid in their maximum attack mode. Now, these older generations not as bad, but they're getting more and more complicated. Tire pressure monitoring problems, brakes, of course, tires themselves. There's been no shortage of issues with a lot of Volvos, and all of the technology seems to be just balling up into one catastrophic failure. 258 problems per 100 vehicles seems to be the way of a lot of these modern Volvos. Now, here's a T6 with the all-wheel drive, XC60. These older generations are slightly better, but they do have their share of issues. And the last most disastrous manufacturer on the list for J.D. Power's of initial quality results goes to Audi. With 269 out of 100 means that Audi, with all of their problems, electric failures, transmission issues, leaks, coolant, oil leaks, of course, catastrophic failures years with engines like the EA888 has had its share of issues, especially in the older generations. LED technology, leaks in the sunroof, suspension systems that aren't all that durable. With all of these engines, particularly the 2-liter turbo engines, the EA888 and some of the other engines, TSI and TFSI, they're just not all that reliable. And unfortunately for Audi, a 269 out of 100 means that you're going to be an owner with a lot of time spent at the dealer network. You're probably going to want to develop a strong friendship with the service writers. Guaranteed, with the initial quality survey results showing that poor, you're definitely going to have quite the experience once a warranty's gone. But if you want to find some other great options for reliable vehicles, check out my videos there. They're really going to help you navigate that world, because it is a complex number of vehicles out there today, and you just want to make sure your money's well protected. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. See you then. Bye-bye.